Good morning, everyone. On this episode of BOBscaping, we're going to trim what I call the star of the show. This is a winter gem boxwood, one that has grown very nicely here next to this enclosed area below our deck. You can see in the back it's not quite as full as in the front because it doesn't get as much sunlight. Different times we have either power sheared it or hand sheared it. So here we got the Sandviks out and we're gonna give it a go. As you recall from other videos, if you've watched, I like to start at the top, work down, and create a gumdrop type shape. You also notice I have some 2 10x10 leaf tarps out here. They work well to speed the cleanup. After you trim, you just fold them up and the cleanup's pretty much done. So here we go. All right, and it's good to keep the tips up. If you get your tips down, they tend to dig into the shrub, and you can tell I'm just kind of working to the old outline. I mean, it's had a nice shape to it. There's no real reason to do anything drastic. It's got plenty of room to grow here. So we'll just kind of stay the course and trim it tight, but not super tight. I think the last time I trimmed it, with the power trimmers, I kind of dug down into the top a little bit too much. So here it is. It's early morning in mid-July here in western Pennsylvania. There I got in a little bit deeper, and nice and cool out. That's always a great time to trim evergreens because they aren't suffering from like heat exhaustion. You know how you can feel at the end of the day. See here, I dug in a little bit. We'll fix that up. So yeah, in the morning when it's cool out, the growth is what the common term for that is turgid, T-U-R-G-I-D. So when the new growth is turgid, it cuts more cleanly, kind of like having crisp lettuce. So now we're getting down to this back part where it doesn't get as much sunlight. And the key here is, as always, you want to keep those lower branches long enough so they can get sunlight. Some sunlight can reach down behind them. It's not going to be direct sun. The south would be in this direction, north this way. So, you know, it's kind of a shady exposure to begin with, and especially with this wall here. So yeah, we'll just go easy on this back side and keep working around a little. Doesn't really matter if you work right to left, left to right, your preference. But again, I like to kind of get going from the top and work down, just like when you're washing a car. Start at the roof and then do the sides to get that downward flow. So today is a couple interesting things here in western Pennsylvania. We're having our second code orange air quality alert day. I think we had one yesterday, but if it wasn't yesterday, it was just recently. And that's where code orange is where the air quality goes into a unsafe range for people with compromised health issues like asthma seniors like myself, and the air quality is just not good, and the odd part, or the unusual part compared to the code orange alerts we usually get, is that this one's being attributed to wildfire smoke coming down from Canada. They have an amazing, and I should say alarming, number of wildfires burning, as is the case in the Pacific Northwest. I guess the fire in Oregon is the one that's most notable right now. So, of course, the recommendation is to refuel your car at night if you're still driving a gas guzzler as opposed to a electric vehicle. Limit any wood burning or any sort of burning that would create additional air pollution. And if you are in a compromised population with any sort of breathing issues, COPD or things like that, asthma, try to stay inside. And if you're lucky enough to have a electronic air cleaner, it will also help. We have an Austin Air Health Mate. Probably the next time I buy a filter for that, I'll get the Austin Air Health Mate Plus filter, since it takes out more pollutants such as VOCs, which stands for volatile organic compounds. Okay, so we're getting around the side of this shrub. Some people have enjoyed these sorts of videos more than the... There, I dug in a little too deep there. We'll trim around it to try to hide that. But these boxwoods are very resilient. You don't want to trim them too late in the season. So I think July is probably the month when we were still actively landscaping, when we did most of our trimming, and oftentimes we would also put down a fresh coat of wood mulch. And some viewers will notice I said mulch instead of mulch. I get a lot of I get a lot of funny comments about that pronunciation, which I picked up from another nurseryman who has since passed. But okay, so sometimes you want to give it a little brush off, knock the clippings loose, and that also brings up any ones that were inside the shrub when you were doing the trimming in that area. Bring up any strays. Okay, so let's take a look. Looks pretty darn good. We could just actually leave it at that, but I'm just going to go around and just do a little touch up on any strays. Looks pretty good back here. Okay, yeah, and using these on this kind of a day makes sense. If it's code orange, we don't want to be adding any two-stroke, meaning that those trimmers I use are two-cycle gasoline-powered trimmers where you mix the oil in with the gas, the two-cycle oil. And on that note, I guess, I don't know if people have noticed, but for anyone using 2-cycle in their engines, which seem to basically be getting eliminated, whether it's a motorcycle or something else, a lot of small equipment dealers now recommend you buy this stuff that's $20 a gallon, and that's like a special premix where your gasoline and oil are already mixed, and it also has a ethanol, something to address the ethanol in the gasoline, because that can damage small engines, cause various problems. So I did buy a gallon of that last time, but another small equipment dealer told me just to be sure to buy high test gasoline, which would be 93 octane, and use a good quality 2-stroke oil, which he uses the still. He's this STIHL, the still 2-stroke oil. It's usually considered a 50-to-1 mix, but he basically said, like on the chainsaw that he worked on, he said either keep the tank full or empty it all the way out if you're storing it for a longer period of time. So most people have trouble with their snow throwers when they try to start them up in the winter, because that piece of equipment probably sits longer than any other piece of small equipment. So, you know, all this being said, I'm planning to move into rechargeable power tools. I already got the electric snow thrower and the electric snow broom, and those same batteries, large and small, both fit into other things like the electric lawnmower, the power trimmers, head shears, and the other host of equipment that those are designed for. Okay, I think we're good to go. For this episode of BOBscaping, this is Bob.